I think the statements by the Pope need to be put in proper context, and the Pope, I think, was irresponsible to talk about waving white flags when he is not on the battlefield and he has not spoken to the Ukrainians who have been so vigorously defending their country. And you can be very abstract about the Ukrainian war, and you can listen to the Russian propaganda, and you can listen to the Russian trolls who invariably turn up on my channel and others. Or you can remember the appalling crimes that have taken place, the appalling savagery of the Russian attacks on civilians, the attacks on civilian infrastructure like electricity and so on. You can even think of individual episodes like the film, which I don't recommend you watch, of, it may be Alexander Matsievsky, or it may be Timofey Shadura. It's not that clear. Timofey was from Donetsk, and Alexander was a Moldovan fighter from Ukraine in the Battle of Bakhmut. Whoever is the person in the grave, on the 6th of March 2023, the footage was released of an execution that took place on December the 30th, 2022. And it's of a soldier who was forced to dig his own grave, stand in the grave, and while he was doing that, he defiantly lit his own cigarette and shouted out, Slava Ukraini, and was shot by a huge number of guns who then mocked him. You can hear the mocking as well. This is the language of savagery. And should we accept that this wins? I don't think so. As long as Ukraine wants help, I think we should be providing that help, and no waving of white flags. Of course we should be negotiating, of course we should be talking, because in the absence of the talk that can legitimately take place between Putin and Zelensky, Putin won't negotiate with Zelensky, Zelensky won't negotiate with Putin, and perfectly understandable why Zelensky won't negotiate with Putin. Putin's dead anyway. But other nations around the world should be negotiating with Russia to talk Russia down from this absurdity. Get your election out of the way. Get this Putin doppelganger back in the Kremlin with some sort of seal of popular approval, and then get on with the job, stop the war, and get on with life. And let's get rid of these ridiculous sanctions. That's perfectly understandable, and I understand that. But for Zelensky to capitulate to a thug who walks over his borders and takes his land and declares his land to be part of Russian territory that threatens the rest of the world with nuclear annihilation if they don't accept his bullying, no, that's not right. And am I a pugilist for saying so? Absolutely not. I think we should have been in talks with Putin from the very beginning, and the whole idea of sanctions has obliterated that opportunity. Of course we should be responding to Mr. Zelensky's pleas, but we shouldn't be dictated to by Zelensky, nor by Putin. Zelensky deserves to be heard and supported. Putin deserves to be castigated, excoriated, and silenced. But we need to talk to both. And we have abrogated our responsibility to talk to both by embracing these stupid, silly, pointless sanctions, which only hurt ordinary Russians and only hurt ordinary Ukrainians. Sanctions are not a way forward. and I hope in future we will recognize that fact. Targeted sanctions on individuals may well be a coherent punishment, but sanctions on an entire nation, it demeans the sanctioner, it belittles our currency, it shuts doors rather than opens them. It's a very, very ill-defined weapon. A little bit like smoke in the trenches, a little bit like gas in the trenches. You don't know when the wind's going to blow in your own direction. And I think the sanctions, when history is written, will have done the West as much damage as it could possibly have done to Russia. The Russian elite have already squirreled away enough money to keep going. Sanctions are not going to hurt them.